What's that? Who there? Whoa.
I'd love to get like broadly first your assessment of like where you think we are in the broader cycle. There's obviously been so much hype of late, like in the last 3 to 6 months of all these NFT, all these projects, but you were there way, way, way before that. And so like to your trained eye and to a lot of untrained eyes that are just coming into it today, what are some of the like most exciting use cases in your mind that we haven't even scratched the surface yet of that can inspire people to maybe if they haven't dove down the rabbit hole, they can start looking into it?
So I think what's inspiring to me is just the pace of change in an open network. And you don't generally see this with corporations. And so what I mean by that is like when I started at Ethereum and in the Ethereum ecosystem in 2017, like building something was extremely complicated. So 10-person team, there was a project called Augur, like getting it up. It's a prediction market. So it's the ability for somebody to post a market and then for others to bet on the market and the market to resolve. So you could post, as an individual market, will Donald Trump win the election? And people can then bet. And so it's like an autonomous betting platform.
Like
and the idea was almost like a casino, but on like all kinds of crazy things. And then the idea was you could take that data to really understand markets, right? As a prediction. So what is likely to happen? And when people are voting with their money, there's some evidence that the results are better than when not. And so that project took years to build, to audit, to do security audits, to launch it. Like none of the tooling was there to actually do it. And, you fast forward 3-4 years later, I'd be going to these amazing hackathons called ETH Global, like just incredible experience. If you're a developer and you're listening, join an ETH Global hackathon to really understand like what can be built. And in 3 days, because of the new tooling, the developer tools, the patterns, improvements in testing, improvements in auditing practices, like what used to take years has been shortened to months. And so you're just seeing an explosion in innovation. And then the other interesting thing about crypto is everything interacts with each other. So one example of that is like, there's a smart contract protocol called Compound, and it allows you to lock up your Ether or other assets and get interest on it, right? And so this was built by like 4 developers, and I think it's securing more than $1 billion at the moment. It might even be significantly more than that. To build that in the traditional financial system, like a money market, the amount of lawyers, back office, processing to build that is an order of magnitude cost. Like, to build Compound, $2 million, 4 or 5 engineers and a few months of time. And even 1 year, 2 years from now, that it'll be a fraction of that. So I think what's really exciting about crypto is because things are open and can be built on top of each other. Like now it's not like, hey, Compound is this walled garden. Anyone can use it, right? Which is super exciting. And so the fact that the systems are open, the developer tools have gotten much better, that is like extremely powerful. It's like really a global open financial system, and it's grown like so much faster than even I expected. So I'll stop there. We can kind of go whatever way you want with it. And I could talk about other applications also.
Yeah. So when you joined I don't know if it was like a centralized body or you were working remote, like decentralized, just on the effort in 2017. What were you specifically focused on? Like, were you almost like a gun for hire on these different projects, or were you working on the core Ethereum platform? Like, how did that work for you?
Yeah, so the way I got involved was like pretty much just by luck, and like was in the right place at the right time. I'm not, I love the principles, but I'm not like a diehard. There's people who are, have been in since 2010. Like, I don't believe in the government, and like very like intensely bought in. To me, it was more just really interesting technical problem, and also just very interesting. The community around it is what really got me. Like the people involved are just so amazing and kind and quirky. And so, we lived in a house in Berlin with our entire team. We lived in a house in San Francisco. We would go to all these weird events. At one point, we were competing for this bounty, an anonymous bounty, to then we were going to use the money to build a real life art project. So just like weird stuff goes on that's like so awesome and cool and different. And so for me, after that Vipassana we had mentioned, I learned about psychedelic medicines there and had been thinking about psychedelics for a while, been reading up on it. And I went maybe about a year later, 8 months later, to Peru with one of my best friends from university. And we did a bunch of ayahuasca together and have actually been sober since then, which we could talk about if you want. But he is actually turned out to be one of the founders of Polychain Capital, which is now one of the largest VC/hedge funds in crypto. And he said, hey, I know you've been doing really complex hardware projects, engineering management. Why don't you come and help our portfolio companies? A lot of them are first-time founders or professors. Can you help them hire engineering teams and determine what to build? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So I kind of started doing that on the side, got super into it just based on the caliber of people I mentioned. And it was like, whoa, this is so cool. Why are these people so interested? Like, this is so cool. Moved to San Francisco, was just living on like couches for a while. And then started doing a bunch of projects with the Ethereum Foundation because I thought it was cool. So the first one was called ETH Prize. And so we interviewed 100 developers that were like prominent in the space about what they needed to see to make Ethereum better and, what they needed to make the developer environment better. And then it was kind of like the X Prize, and that we raised a bunch of money to fund the improvements. And so we made all the interviews public on a website. Anyone could read them. And then Ethereum Foundation was kind of like, why is this guy doing this? Like, I just thought it was cool. Like I got to meet, if you're listening, you're going into a new space. The best thing to do is not think about money, but think about access. And so what are projects you can do that are going to give you visibility? Is there like interviews you can do, content writing, some type of project that like maps the space? Is there something that you can do to help? And so the ETH Prize was great because it helped build a community of like the best developers in the space. It helped raise money to solve problems. And so I kind of started with that. And after that, the Ethereum Foundation was like, whoa, this is really cool. Why don't you come work with us? And so I had done a bunch of like really cool stuff. I built a community of security auditors. I worked on grants. I worked on what was called like ecosystem development. I worked on developer experience. So it was like, how do we get more people building on this platform? How do we bring more partners? How do we get awareness out? And it all just kind of snowballed organically from, talking and networking and like being friendly and like being interested and like working on kind of side projects. I think that's a fantastic, don't be afraid to go into a new space. Like I'm not super technical either. And I think there was a huge advantage in 2017 because people were, there wasn't even any applications at the time. And the discussions are about, Web3 and bytecode and Solidity. And people are like, what is all this, consensus mechanisms? And I had to sit through a lot of discomfort. It kind of goes back to what you learn in the Dark Retreat. It was like, okay, I'm maybe the dumbest guy in the room here. I don't know what anyone's talking about. Like, am I going to sound stupid if I ask a naive question? And sitting through the discomfort, you're learning from the fire hose and realizing like, yeah, you can learn anything. So if you're excited about a space, like go to the conferences, reach out to the early stage companies, ask them about what they're doing, like spend the time. And I think it always, again, like really pays off.